The world has a China problem. Before the pandemic, nearly 1 out of every 3 manufactured goods on Earth came from China. One country, 1/3 of global manufacturing. But today, something is changing. Global companies are looking for alternatives. Governments are investing billions. Supply chains are shifting. And one country is knocking on the door, India. The question is simple. Can India actually replace China? Or is China still playing a game nobody else can win? Let's find out. If you want to understand why the world is betting on India, look at Apple. For years, Apple relied heavily on China to manufacture its products. Today, that is the beginning to change. Production is expanding in India. Foxconn is investing billions. And Apple is not alone. Around the world, manufacturers are increasing their presence in India. Why? Because India offers something very few countries can match: scale. India is now the most populous country on earth. More than 1.4 billion people. And every year millions of young workers enter the workforce. At a time when many countries are getting older, India is still getting younger. But here is what makes India's story even more interesting. It is not about factories. It is about people. The CEOs of Google, Microsoft, and Adobe were all born in India. Think about that for a second. Some of the world's most influential companies are being led by people who started their journey there. Now imagine combining that talent pool with largest population on earth, a young workforce, and the government investing billions into manufacturing. That is what investors see. That is what global companies see. Potential. And over the last decade, India has been working hard to turn that potential into reality. New highways, new rail networks, new ports, new industrial zones. The government has launched major programs to attract manufacturers and encourage companies to build locally. And businesses have noticed. Investment is flowing in, factories are expanding, and confidence in India's future continues to grow. On paper, India looks like the perfect candidate. The people, the scale, the talent, the investment, the ambition. So, if India has all of that, why hasn't it replaced China already? The answer is surprisingly simple. Most people think China's biggest advantage is cheap labor. It isn't. In fact, many countries are now cheaper than China. And that is where a lot of people get this story wrong. When people hear made in China, they still think cheap. Cheap products, cheap manufacturing. But that version of China is fading fast. Today, China dominates some of the world's most important industries. Take EV batteries. Most people have never heard cattle. Yet, one company alone controls roughly 1/3 of the global EV battery market. Think about that. One company, 1/3 of the world's EV batteries. That is not cheap manufacturing. That is industrial dominance. And it doesn't stop there. China is also the world's largest EV producer, the world's largest battery producer, and one of the biggest players in advanced manufacturing. So, if China's advantage isn't cheap labor, what is it? The answer is something much more powerful. It is manufacturing ecosystem. Imagine you are building a smartphone. You need screens, batteries, chips, cameras, packaging, specialized machinery, logistics, and hundreds of suppliers working together. Now, imagine trying to find all of that in one place. This is where China becomes incredibly difficult to replace. Because China's real advantage isn't a single factory. It is an entire ecosystem. In some parts of China, suppliers, factories, and logistics providers operate within just few hours of each other. Companies can source faster, build faster, test faster, scale faster. That speed creates an enormous competitive advantage. Take the iPhone as an example. When the most people think about iPhone manufacturing, they imagine one giant factory. But that is not how it works. Behind every iPhone is a vast network of suppliers, component manufacturers, and logistic companies working together. Many of those networks took decades to build. And that is the real challenge for India. Building factories is difficult. Building ecosystem is much harder. India is making progress. There is no question about that. But replicating decades of industrial development doesn't happen overnight. Which brings us the most important question in this entire video. If India has the growth and China has the ecosystem, who actually wins? So, let's settle this. India versus China, round by round. Round 1. Labor costs. This one goes to India. For labor-intensive manufacturing, India still has a clear cost advantage. And for many companies, that's a big deal. India takes the first point. India 1, China 0. Round 2. Infrastructure. Now things get interesting. India is improving fast, very fast. But China has been building for decades. Today, China has more than 45,000 kilometers of high-speed rail, more than the rest of the world combined. Think about that. One country, more high-speed rail than everyone else put together. And China isn't just building infrastructure at home. It is exporting that expertise abroad. Take Laos, a country of roughly 7 million people. China helped build a high-speed railway connecting Laos to the regional network. That is the scale China operates on. China takes the point. India 1, China 1. Round 3. Manufacturing ecosystem. And this might be the most important round of all. Factories can be built, machines can be bought, but ecosystems take years, sometimes decades. Take the iPhone. Most people see one product. What they don't see is the network behind it. Thousands of suppliers, component manufacturers, logistics providers, all working together. China already has those networks. India is still building them. So, China wins again. India 1, China 2. Okay, a quick question. If you had to choose today, would you manufacture in India or China? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy content about global trade, sourcing and manufacturing, consider subscribing. Now let's continue. Round 4. Demographics. India wins, and honestly, this isn't even close. India is now the world's most populous country, and every year millions of young people enter the workforce. At a time when many countries are getting older, India is still getting younger. That's a powerful advantage, not just for the next 5 years, for the next several decades. India 2, China 2. Round 5. Industrial output. This is where reality kicks in. India has more people, but manufacturing isn't measured in people. It is measured in output. And China is still operating on a completely different scale. Before the pandemic, China accounted for nearly 1/3 of global manufacturing output. 1/3 from a single country. China takes the point. India 2, China 3. Round 6. Future potential. This is the hardest round to judge. Because if we are talking about today, China wins. But if we are talking about the next 20 years, the conversation changes. Investment is rising, factories are expanding, and global manufacturers are paying attention. India takes this round. India 3, China 3. A tie, at least on the scoreboard. But real life isn't decided by scoreboards. It is decided by results. So, after everything we have seen, which country is actually better positioned for the future? So, if you are asking me, Murat, can India replace China? The honest answer is no. At least not anytime soon. But after researching this subject, I think that is actually the wrong question. Because most global companies are no longer asking China or India. They are asking China and who else? That is the idea behind a strategy known as China Plus One. Keep manufacturing in China but add another country. India, Vietnam, Mexico, Thailand, Turkey. Or sometimes several countries at once. And that is the real shift happening right now. China remains the manufacturing superpower. Its infrastructure, its supplier networks, its industrial ecosystem. Those advantages were built over decades, and they won't disappear overnight. But India has something very few countries have. Scale, talent, ambition, and time. That is why global companies are investing billions. That is why factories are expanding. And that is why the world is paying attention. So no, India is not replacing China, but it doesn't have to, because the biggest manufacturing story of the next 20 years may not be the fall of China. It may be the rise of China Plus One, a world where companies manufacture across multiple countries, a world where supply chains become more diversified, and a world where India plays a much bigger role than it does today. That future isn't coming. It is already happening right now. And for you, business owners, importers, and entrepreneurs, this isn't just an interesting trend. These decisions have real consequences. Where you manufacture, who you source from, and which countries you bet on over the next decade. Those choices can have a huge impact on your business. I have spent more than 15 years working in international trade, sourcing, and international business development. Today, I help companies find suppliers, evaluate sourcing opportunities, and build supply chains across multiple countries. So, if you are looking for sourcing support or consulting, you will find the details in the description below. I would be happy to help. And if you are interested in global trade, manufacturing, sourcing, and the future of international business, make sure you subscribe. Because every week we break down the biggest shifts shaping the global economy. And trust me, the next big shift may already be underway. Because if India isn't replacing China, then who benefits from the China Plus One strategy? Vietnam, Mexico, Thailand, Turkey, or a country almost nobody is talking about yet? That's exactly what we will explore next. Take care, bye bye.